Hello everyone, my name is Peter Schmelkel. Welcome you to Stucky at the Researchers Night event, and here is with me Ottonie von Roeder, an artist and a designer from Germany who is joining us on behalf of Goethe Institute and who is working on a collaborative art project with the researchers and engineers of Stucky's EMI laboratory. Hey Ottonie, welcome to Researchers Night. Thank you for joining us, and I would just jump onto the first question, which is like, please tell me about your previous project titled Post-Laboratory, which is basically an art project that was connected with the idea of automation, especially when it comes to its cultural effects.
So, thank you very much for having me here. I'm very glad to be able to work at Stucky during my artist residency here in Budapest. So the Post-Laboratory is a fictional office in which you can automate your own labor. So it's an office where there are engineers, programmers, designers, but also social scientists that help you on different levels to free yourself from the labor you're performing in your profession. Mainly part of employment. This is the basic concept, and it came actually out of the research I did during my master thesis, during my design studies, in which I was busy researching on the future of work and technological development and how it is influencing our culture.
In your introduction video, we made like a short interview before you arrived. You mentioned that you are a very low-tech person, but at the same time, when you created the post-laboratory project, you built actual robots, mainly from the experiences and ideas of the people who held those professions, which the robots are basically recreating or like taking over. How did you end up Stucky, and how do you see this sort of project when you are like working with all this new technology and engineers?
So I think maybe my curiosity comes from the fact that I don't know much about these technologies, from heart. I just know all the aspects on a superficial level. And the other part where my interest comes from is, I think, really from this, these social political observations, and as it plays such an important role on our culture today, and how it will actually influence how different futures could look like.
Like after an era of automation, when work, physical labor is just non-existent?
I wouldn't say it's non-existent, but a lot of tasks, I think, can be performed by automating technology, and that's why I see from a cultural point of view, it's very important to get busy knowing more about it, knowing how we can shape it in a way that is for social good, and getting involved.
So you arrived to Stucky to work on a special project called Robot School, in which, if I understand well, you are basically talking about how robots eventually are going to teach each other like as machine learning, but more close to the human aspect of teaching and learning, of how to recreate other robots. Is this correct, or would you please explain me about this project?
So basically it came from the concept of the post-laboratory, since which I continue to work on small automation projects on spot. So I continued to develop robots together with people to think about different ways of automating. So before coming here to Stucky, I was wondering how I could also automate parts of my own labor as a designer, and then I just broke it down to one aspect of my labor or my profession, or how I would describe myself as a designer who designs robots, which is of course not representing myself, but it just I just broke it down to one aspect. And then together with the team of the IMI-Lab, we already started discussing before my arrival on what we could do together, and then we came up with an installation which included their expertise and my expertise, which is pretty nice, I think. So we have an installation in which we first train in UR, robot arm, to recognize different pieces of a new robot arm that it first recognizes and then can put in the right place so it can be easily assembled. And in the next step of the installation, another UR robot arm is creating, it's more an abstract image of the creation of a new robot arm. So it's actually manufacturing different parts to create like a third generation of a robot arm, who then, in our vision, could maybe even help to create more robot arms.
It's interesting that you mentioned automation of your own work, which is basically a very creative kind of job. And it just, bugs my mind a lot as how would we imagine robots doing creative work and automation taking over creativity and art and such. Do you think this is eventually going to happen, or is it more like an idea that you are working around?
I think, in my opinion, it's more an idea, and it really depends on how you define creativity and artificial intelligence. And in my point of view, it's always a copy of human creativity, because if you think, it really depends on how you think creativity works. But if it's something connected to soul and intuition and not just randomness, then I think it's something that cannot be automated from, at least from today's state of the art. I think it cannot be automated. And we can see it also in the installation that there's a lot of human help involved. But still, I think it's interesting to show this image, to start a discussion and to think about it, and to have exactly these questions popping up. Is this actually possible? Is this real or not? How would this look like? Okay, can a robot arm, who's not even an artificial intelligence, can a robot arm become an artist or a designer of a new robot arm? Or is he just performing actually the tasks that we tell it to do?
Okay, so basically the AI version of Picasso is still pretty far away.
I mean, there are a lot of projects claiming that they came up with an AI artist, but I think it depends a bit on your definition of art and creativity, I would say.
It's interesting that you usually ask questions, like whenever we talk about your projects, it usually breaks down to like a few questions that you ask yourself. Is this basically the method of your work? Like you see some things in society and the world and you just start to ask questions, do inquiries about those topics, and eventually create something along those lines of the questions?
I think, it's an important part of my work. I think also my physical outputs are always part of my research. So I see things, then I question them, like usually the structures and systems. And then by asking questions, I come up with something like an object or an installation that maybe shows some aspects of answers to the questions I had, but ask again new questions. So the main aim usually in my work, I think, is to start discussions. And that's also, I think, for me, very productive, because by discussing you might find solutions, or you might find new questions, but my aim is not to find answers.
Mm-hmm. And the videos are also an important tool of yours. Like many of your projects have video outputs. What is the reason of that?
Maybe, I mean, the first reason can just be that I like to make videos. I mean, just, that I think I started during my studies just out of a necessity, because I had a moving object and I had to show how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that because humor is quite an important aspect in my work, and sometimes it's easier to, or at least for me, it can be easier to show this humor through a moving image than through a photograph. That might be the reason.
What do you think about the differences between being a designer and an artist? Because when you arrived, we were talking about your actual profession, how to describe it, and you said like you usually refer yourself as a designer. But in Hungarian language it means a little bit different than it means an artist, or like in English or like in German. What do you see the differences? Where they lie? How would you project yourself? Because what I see from what you do, I would say like, this is art. You are an artist who creates art, but you usually say that you're a designer. Why is the difference? Why is this like huge cliff behind these two terms?
Okay, it's a big question, and I think if we now start to dig into this, I think we can continue like for hours.
It's going to be a long researcher's night.
I mean, very pragmatic answer, just my education. I was educated or trained as a designer, and I think there are differences in the approach that, but I don't want to harm any designers or artists' feelings, because I think it's really also a cultural question. Depending on in which country you are, it's seen differently. In Germany, we have a really clear differentiation between designers and artists, because also designers, how I see it in Germany, are more performing functional design. So are industrial designers, or product designers, furniture designers, and then artists are really, compared to that, very free. And when you then look into other countries like the Netherlands, where I did my master, the lines are becoming more fluid.
I see.
So it's also much easier to switch from one field to another, and there's not a straight line. So I think for me it's just a personal choice that I was educated as a designer, and I have a lot of respect towards art, and that's why I just don't want to call myself an artist without having been trained as an artist.
I see. But anyway, you are going to have an exhibition at Stati about Robotiskola and Friends. This is the title, so there's a reason, because the first one is Hungarian and the second part of the title is in English. You are going to show off Robotiskola, but it also includes other works of yours, video projects and post-laboratory. Can you tell us about the exhibition? What do you expect of it?
I mean, mainly, I think it was your idea or Staki's idea. So I'm just happy that I have the platform to show my work. I think it is also the first time there's a solo exhibition with my personal work. I've had solo exhibition, but always with a group of people, like a team. So this is quite special to me, and it's also nice to see like different projects dealing with the topic of automation and labor from 2017 until now. I think it's quite nice for me to, or that's how I imagine it, that it can be nice to see it like in a line and not just one project isolated from the friends. Yeah, and I'm also curious to see how the audience here, like the audience in Budapest, but also the team of Stucky is going to react, because I think it's might be a bit like a UFO, because it's a very different approach to the scientific approach at Stucky. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how everyone will react, and if they will just find it silly, or if it's making some people curious, or if it's explained well enough. Like, all these things are quite interesting to me.
I'm sure that it's going to take a lot of discussion, which is basically something that you like. And if you are curious what's going to happen on the exhibition, you will be see it on the 29th of September to the 29th of October here at Stucky. Thank you, Ottonie, for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone watching Researchers Night. See you around.